But something else in 1935. I had a wonderful great aunt. She was a lovely lady. She was a school teacher. She believed in education. She loved books. And unhappily, her name was Lucinda Kelsey, a pretty name, Lucinda Kelsey. We called her Aunt Nin, and Aunt Nin died. And her lawyer was John Spaeder. In those days, they had what's called the reading of the will. All the beneficiaries had to go down to the law office, and the lawyer would read the will to them. And of course, they'd get mad at each other then because they were cut out, that sort of thing. But that was a deal. So I went down and I met John Spaeder, and lo and behold, Aunt Nin put in the will for my cousin Betty and me $500 for each of us, provided we go to college. Wow. $500 was a lot of money because when I got my job at the A&P, $12 a week. Think about 500. So I remembered that. That was 1935. So anyway, I worked for 3 years in the A&P. We got up to 1938, and I realized I got to go to school. I'm getting nowhere. I'm making no money, and it's just one of those things. So I remember this thing about the $500. I went down to see John Spaeder in the Aerial Building. How many of you remember where the Aerial Building? You do? Not too many. It was on the northeast corner of 8th and State, a little skinny building. And it was skinny. You walked in the State Street side, and they had, in the first flight, as you walked in, was Chaconas. And all the strong Vincent girls would go over there every day and have sodas. The East High girls that I was with, they couldn't go. They didn't have any money. But upstairs, they had the law offices, and John Spaeder was up there. So anyway, I went to see Mr. Spaeder. I introduced myself and I said, Mr. Spaeder, I think, if I remember right, I have a trust. Yes, you do. He said, Betty never was interested in going to college, but he said, here's what I'll do. I'll give you $125. And he said, here's what I want you to do. You come back every year in September, August, September, bring me your report cards. I want to see how you're doing. And I'll give you another $125. So happily for me, my report cards are pretty good. I went back for 4 years. Each year I get $125 to help me to go to college. And I made it. So after that, after college, I got in the service for 3 years. I got out of the service in October, and luckily, Cornell started November 1st for the law school. So I enrolled at Cornell, and as time went on, remember, the $500, but I had the GI Bill of Rights, and it was wonderful. But by that time, there's no more going to see John Spaeder, because the $500 had been used up over the 4 years. But I made it a point to see to it that John got a copy of the Cornell Law Review. Always. It came out 4 times a year, and he always had a copy because on page 1, Betsy Story and I were listed as co-editors-in-chief. And that didn't hurt me a bit with John Spaeder. And it didn't hurt Betsy a bit. She got a marvelous job in New York because of that page 1. And had it for many, many years. So when I got all finished with Cornell, Bob Spaeder called me one day and said, my brother wants to talk to you. Oh, I forgot one thing. As I got into Cornell, I was there about 3 months and I learned something. It shocked me. If I go back to Pennsylvania, I have to have a preceptor. I didn't know that. I didn't know what one was. It's a lawyer who will look after you and be in charge of you and supposedly instruct you, and it's quite formal before you can be admitted. Oh God, I didn't have one. Mary was a barber, so her cousin was Tom Barber, the lawyer. So Tom said, yeah, I'll be your preceptor. So that was fine. That was wonderful. Now I had a preceptor. Well, I got to my third year of law school. I get the word from Tom Barber, I can't help you. I can't take you into my office. Usually the preceptor would take them into the office because I got Howie Essick, and Howie was at Notre Dame. He was in law school, and Howie had a lot of political influence out in the West End. And the Barbers were all politicians. So that put me out. So I called John Spaeder, asked him if he'd be my preceptor. He said yes. So that was wonderful. So when I finished, Bob Spaeder called me and said, my brother wants to talk to you. And I went to see John, and John invited me into the firm. And that was 1948, and that's how I got in.